Things have gotten real weird. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Hello and welcome to the EuroWhat, episode 259, dropping on March 11th, 2025. We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Ben.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the last TV weekend of selection season with Sweden, San Marino, and Portugal. This was a fun final weekend.
I completely agree. I feel like when you get to this point in selection season, it's one of two modes. It's either, oh God, can this just end? Or this week where I do not want the silliness to stop. Like, this has been such a silly week.
This weekend, my feeling was just, it's over. As though not 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was collapsed on the floor of my apartment from watching too many national selections, cursing various nations' names over process changes. But 5 minutes after it's over, it's like, have a great summer, everybody. Let's sign yearbooks. Kicking off this week's selections with sort of like a fun little asterisk is the whole Malta situation that we thought was resolved. It turns out might not be. I did some very fun research looking into the Ofcom rules of the UK because there's some choice words being used in the Maltese entry. And I'm gonna use my best pronunciation on this part because I don't think it's necessarily been confirmed, but it's just like strongly just like the UK in particular had broadcast restrictions that were making Conte a little bit tricky. And having looked into the Ofcom rules around language that can be used on TV in the UK, it would be a problem for Miriana to serve Conte before 21 o'clock. So, okay, cool. We just kick it later in the broadcast. But if you do that, you still need clear justification for serving Conte after 21 o'clock. And you possibly require a senior compliance manager's permission to serve Conte.
This is one of those times where I really wish we were a video podcast because the way that you are like gesticulating as you are saying serving Conte is very fun for me to watch.
Oh, yes. On the other hand, the fact that we're not a video podcast means that we don't have to spend an inordinate amount of time making those YouTube reaction faces for like the little preview clip. Apologies, friends. You're never going to get that.
Let me tell you what we're not serving.
Malta is appealing the decision. Miriana was interviewed on BBC's Newsnight, where the driest possible British man interviewed her. And she's just like, no, I'm serving singing. That's what I'm doing. So, like, that was the most inadvertently hilarious interview about this song I think could have been produced.
I love what Miriana has been doing when this whole controversy arose. KANTroversy? Are we going to do that? No, let's not try that. But,
I mean, I just keep thinking of the Mother Superior in The Sound of Music. Just like, what is it that the BBC can't face?
There was the article saying that this objection came up, and accompanying it was this photo of her on like a hospital gurney with a giant fan and just the best expression on her face. I love this just for that photo popping up. In that interview, it felt like she was given a PowerPoint. It's like, these are the points you need to hit. And she's just like playing the party line perfectly, hitting all the talking points like a pro. So, yeah, I hope that she is having the best time with this because I certainly am.
Oh yeah, no, this is no matter how this shakes out, just like, this is great.
It sounds like there are going to be some sort of adjustments made, probably the song being retitled. I'm hoping it's just omitting the word from the lyrics because it only appears 6 times. It's only in the chorus. The thought that immediately came to mind when this was selected was just like, okay, like serving and then pyro boom at that point. Staging problem solved. It just solves so many things. Or they can change the song title to Serving Conte, since that is her last name. It's already kind of dodgy, the restricting language things. And this is one of the points that she brought up. It's like, yeah, like words may sound the same phonetically, but have completely different meanings. And even though I think she's on kind of like icy ground with that, there is some legitimacy to that complaint. It's like, okay, are we going to be cherry picking words just because this may sound like a swear in one language and it's completely innocent in another? It's an interesting linguistic conundrum that they're bringing up.
Yes. In the chaos gremlin spirit of this weekend, I just want them to just replace that with just an air horn noise.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like there are so many ways that they can solve for this. I have full faith in Malta's writing team, as they have proven to be cunning linguists when it comes to the songwriting. So more to come on this, I think. In terms of new songs that have dropped this week, Austria got that started with the release of JJ's Wasted Love. So this was revealed Thursday morning. Ben, what was your first impression when you heard this track?
When I sit with this one, it feels sort of like an inside-out version of what The Code was doing last year. It's really focusing on the operatic vocals and then tries to throw a little bit of like an electro breakdown in at the end. My complaint is that that comes too late for me. Throw that in at the second verse and like really let this take off. It feels very jury bait for me.
Yes. And I think that that's what a lot of countries are aiming for, finding that to be an interesting strategy this year, because you got to get through the televote to get to the jury. But last year and the year before, it was the jury winner that ended up winning the whole thing. So I can kind of understand the math behind that decision, but on first listen, very similar to The Code. It was like, oh, this is a lot to wake up to on a Thursday morning. Just because, as you heard in the clip, like it is that like sopranist timbre like throughout the song. Also, it was just kind of reminding me, oh man, I do not miss being 23 years old. You know? But I mean, I think it is relatable in that sense. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm sure if I were 23, it's like, oh, this song is really speaking to me right now. I agree with you that tempo shift, like music break thing, it's an interesting choice that it's like dropped in there at all. And it's making me wonder what the stage performance of this is going to be. Just because my assumption would be if you have that kind of voice that you're not able to move around, like it would require such breath control that like you really would have to be in one spot. And that blip, I guess, towards the end, it was just like, okay, that implies that there's going to be movement of some sort, but is that going to be possible? And yeah, like this is one where it's just like I'm almost kind of withholding judgment on it. It's like I need a little bit more information. I would also like to see this live. I don't doubt that he's able to do this live because, like, I mean, like he is an opera singer by trade. And when I was talking about it with my husband, he was like, well, yeah, opera singers move around while they're singing too. It's like, yeah, I guess that is true. It's not just like a plant and sing.
So much about how this song is structured feels like it is built for whatever staging concept they have in mind. So there's just pieces we don't have.
I think I'm coming down favorably on this one, but yeah, it's just like, all right, like just give me a little bit more.
I see the appeal this one has. I have other horses in this race that I'm more excited about, but I see why it's in the conversation, even though I don't like that.
And also thinking of the jury bait component of it, haven't really thought about these songs in terms of jury versus televote yet. That's kind of part of the analysis of hearing it in the context of finals. I could see juries being interested in this one. Remains to be seen if it's going to be rewarded.
Yeah, because again, like there is the whole televote component. This one is in the second semifinal, which feels like this is very different from a lot of what's going on there. So like, by pure novelty there, that sort of gives us a leg up. But like, again, how is it going to do on the night? Friday mornings, we finally got the UK's entry. It is Remember Monday. We have known it's Remember Monday for like a month and a half. We'll come back to that in a second. But their song for Basel is What the Hell Just Happened. Speaking of what the hell just happened, BBC, what are y'all doing? We've known it's them. It's been rumored. We've looked at their previous stuff. There was like the whole kind of, they're kind of country sort of floating around. And like this song doesn't necessarily reflect that, but just whatever. But also just in general, what is going on? What the hell is happening? There was a snippet leaked on TikTok. And then there was a brief moment where What the Hell Just Happened merch was briefly visible on the band's Spotify page. So like before Friday, we knew what the song was titled. We had a snippet. At every possible opportunity, they are just stumbling over their own feet. I talk all the time about how the UK hype cycle is, we're so back, it's so over. We're so back, it's so over. I'm fully in we're so back moment. I think this is fun.
My galaxy brain theory on what is happening here with the completely bungled rollout of this is that it may be intentional in the sense that they're trying to get it so that nobody's talking about it, so that when it appears on stage in May, it'll be as if it's the first time that people have encountered it. That theory doesn't quite work because I presume this is getting radio airplay in the UK. So it's like, oh, no, like it is out in the wild. But the fact that the BBC was talking about Malta instead of the UK entry on Friday is just like, okay, like you've just completely undercut yourself. But like if that is intentional, that is interesting. But yeah, anyway, getting to the actual track, I don't know about this one. Part of it is I don't like the production of it. In my opinion, it sounds very soupy and just kind of overproduced, but I can tell that these women know how to sing, like they have the harmonies and stuff. So I'm excited to hear what this sounds like live. Like I think that's going to be a much more pleasant listening experience, but trying to listen through is like you can kind of like hear every single reference to everything. It's like, oh, it's like it's Katy Perry, it's Queen, it's kind of reminding me of Denmark's 2022 entry, to the point where I looked up the songwriting team. There are a couple of Danes on it. So it's like, all right, is UK going Danish the strategy? Is that going to improve the results? That would be really interesting because like I think of Denmark as just being like ridiculously optimistic, and that is not what I ever think about with the UK. So yeah, it's very confusing to listen to. And like, I also really don't like the music video. Like it really feels like it's the credit sequence for a WB sitcom from like 1999. So
I think it's great that the BBC is sending a girl group. When I think of UK music, they're very good at those. And like, they don't necessarily translate to US radio play, but like, that's fine. We don't really vote in Eurovision. I remember following Pop Justice's 20 Quid Prize, and like Little Mix was always in there. And this is very in that vein. It's the first time the UK has sent a girl group since 1984 when they were represented by Belle and the Devotions. I agree with you that I think they're going to nail the live vocals on this, and I'm glad that they're prioritizing that because for a couple of years they've sent songs that are great, but then they don't sound great live. Talking about how this feels like Katy Perry and Queen and whatnot, all three of the members of Remember Monday have UK theater backgrounds. And one of them was in Six, where the entire point of Six is the wives of Henry VIII, but they're all pop stars.
Okay. Yeah, that all tracks.
I like the fact that this kind of feels like Don't Stop Me Now, but I also agree with you that the verses are a little too overstuffed, because like that's the part that I can't make out what all's going on there. The video was giving me Saltburn.
Oh, really?
Sort of the after the party nature of that.
Right.
There's also something that felt very sort of like Bridgerton bachelorette party about the styling, which I'm not mad about. Like, for whatever reason, like it's working with the whole vibe of the song for me. Given that there's a theatrical background here, I kind of want them to lean into that with the staging.
That was something that did kind of work for UK. Their previous decent result before Sam Ryder was Lucy Jones in 2017. She also has that theater background.
Yes, it's like when they pick somebody with a theater background, they've done reasonably well at Eurovision. So like, it's not a bad idea to, hey, we've got this girl group where all three of the members have some level of involvement in theater. They're going to be able to sing. They're going to be able to sing while doing stuff, presumably.
Also, kind of going back to borrowing from the Code. I mean, that was one of my critiques last year when we were talking about the Code specifically, where it's like, yeah, there's like big theater kid energy emanating from it. So if UK picked up on that as well, like this could be an interesting way to go.
It is up to the draw gift of being able to stick a song called What the Hell Just Happened at the end of the night after a lot of hell has happened is just very appealing. I fully expect to be in the It's So Over a couple weeks from now, but just like it feels like there's some stuff there, and this is another one where I want to see live to see how it potentially pops differently than just this recorded version.
On Friday, Czechia dropped the official version of Adonis's Kiss Kiss Goodbye. It's not drastically different from when we talked about it back in episode 255 when he performed it at the Malta semifinal. Malta's just has their tentacles everywhere this week, but we're not going to double dip on this one. We'll talk about it more fully when we get into review season. But just a reminder that there are going to be a lot of revamps coming out in the next couple of weeks. The Eurovision version of tracks that may have been duration longer than 3 minutes, and music videos dropping as well. So things to keep an eye out for as we kind of enter into this dormant period between the end of selection season and the actual Eurovision competition. That takes us into Saturday, where we had 3 national finals. The first one was Sweden and the finale of Melodifestivalen. What an exciting show. I really enjoyed it.
I was watching all 12 of these entries and having kind of the same reaction I've had when like Norway has shown us the full extended process they do. I'm just like, this is a really solid set of 12 songs and there's some good stuff in the mix.
A lot of people were going into this week thinking it was just going to be like the coronation of Måns and his second go at Eurovision. I never had that sense, like just kind of looking at streaming numbers and what sort of songs were in place. Like in Sweden terms, there was variety on offer. I did not think it was going to be a slam dunk for him. Spoiler, it was not.
I was going, okay, I think it's down to I think ultimately it's down to Måns and Kai. And it just kind of depends on how the jury goes. Because, I feel the televote was, in Kai's ball game as soon as they qualified to this final and everybody started listening to that song and going, oh, this is fun.
That was the thing. Ultimately, Kai was the winner with Bara Bada Bastu. It had 3.2 million views on YouTube in a 2-week period, which is monumental. I think that was larger than just about every video from last year's Melfest, which has had a full year to gather views. Looking at the streaming, once it got to the top of the Swedish Spotify charts, it stayed there. It's the #1 song in Sweden right now. Måns did not hit 1 million views on his semifinal performance until after Saturday's final had started. Like you were saying, it was going to come down to the jury vote, and Måns needed to have a strong jury performance and enough of a lead to even really stand a chance. It was only a 2-point difference, and that was definitely not enough.
That was wild to me. One of the other factors before we got to the voting of just the little parade of artists at the start of the show, and just you could hear the crowd roaring for Kai in a way that they were not for most of the other competitors.
This one was the most wild to me. After each performance, they'll cut to the crowd and see them cheering and stuff. After Måns' performance, they cut to people in the crowd sitting in their seats politely, but not even clapping. It was just oh, okay.
When the jury started coming in, I was initially concerned. The first jury comes in and Kai only had 4 points from that. I'm okay, this might not do it. But then they got a 12. And then they got another 12.
They ended up getting 4 out of the 8 12s available. Yeah, when that first vote came in, it was just okay, they only got 4. Måns was also mid-table.
Yeah, Måns got 7. So I'm oh, this is not as much of a done deal as I think it is. Looking at the jury scores overall, Måns did win that, but with only 76 points. Kai right behind that at 74. Third place, John Lundvik at 49 points. So just pretty big gap there. Right behind him, Dolly Style with 48 points from the jury.
To be fair, that was a fantastically staged performance, and it is a fun song. So I'm not surprised that the jury went for that one. The way that the jury shook out, it's oh, yeah, this is about what I was expecting.
These are the top ones I would put there. Then we got to the televote, and that's where things got fun. As things were coming in from bottom to top, Clara Hammarström, who had been towards the bottom, got 43 points from the televote. Greg Zula, who I thought did a great job, would love to see him come back to Melfest because he had a different vibe than Sweden tends to send, got 56 points. Then we got Kai's score, and Kai had 90 points. It's that. They've won.
The televote is set up similarly to the jury, where they have the individual age groups broken out. There are 7 age groups, and then there's the general televote if you vote by phone. So the most you can get is 96 points. Once the 90 came in, it's oh, it's just not going to be possible for Måns, because the most that he can get at this point would be 86, and he needed more than 86 points.
That was delightful, just Sweden picking a fun thing and not just sort of what I don't know what to do with this. This is I'm rooting for Sweden now. It's what?
Yeah, like this is the first time that I have been this excited for Sweden, possibly ever. If Måns had won, I just would have been banging my head on the table, just be like, why are you sending something that is so boring and lifeless? And like, it's an okay TV performance. Like that was a performance that was built for television, not at all built for the arena, which I think is why like there was like so little reaction afterwards. And it's just like, we don't need to do this again. Send something that has light and color and like a little bit of whimsy. They are finally doing that in a language that's not English, which is also remarkable.
Yeah, this is the first song from Sweden in Swedish since 1998. It is the second time since 1966 where Sweden has sent a song in Swedish when they have not been compelled by the rules of the contest to do so. The most recent song in Swedish in the contest is from Finland in 2012, where Narjag Blundar did not make it out of its semifinal.
Yeah. Great song, though. I really like that one.
Sweden is very good at seeing what's going on in the contest. Trend-wise, I'm just thinking of like when Calm After the Storm came second in 2014, and then Måns performed Heroes, which I'd argue is like Sweden doing country pop.
I would agree with that.
So like Sweden is finally tapping into the, oh right, what's doing well at the contest right now? Weird little dudes performing in their own language. They reached out to Kai, and then Kai had to find a Swedish songwriter to work with them because that's part of the Melfest rules. That's why they reached out to Anders Rexo, because they liked his work for Melfest.
I haven't dug into their background yet, so like this is all new information.
Don't worry, I am fully Kai-pilled. Thinking about artists with theatrical background, Kai have written 2 very well-received musicals.
Oh, really?
Yes. YLE will not let me watch their 10-year concert that is on Arena. YLE, open that up. Like, I assume I'm not the only weirdo who wants to, like, watch that now. So just, like, please. Looking into the song and just looking into them. Again, they've, like, we talked about this when they made it to the final, but just, like, they've been doing this since 2009. So they have a lot of stage potential. One of them is a sound engineer. Their frontman, Jakob, found a clip yesterday from some other YLE show where he performed a version of Nessun Dorma and like has the pipes to do that. I think that's part of the success of this one is like they're just very talented musicians who know how to write songs.
Exactly. I can see where people are thinking that this is a joke song or something not to be taken seriously, but it's like, no, they're fully committed to the bit if it were a joke song, and like they are doing the work, and that makes such a huge difference. I have watched their semifinal performance several times just because I'm fascinated by the stagecraft that is happening in there. And you can tell that the audience is, I wouldn't say against them, but they're not necessarily on their side at the start of that performance. It's like, okay, here's this week's joke entry.
Here's the Dancing Fruits and Vegetables song.
Exactly. And it's just like, oh, okay, I guess Ava and Ava weren't available this week or whatever. But then it's just like, oh, no, these guys are actually really delivering a strong vocal. Oh, there's a change in staging that's happening here. Okay, I'm kind of on board. It's a silly subject for a song, but it's at least about something. Like that was the thing that was driving me the most nuts about Revolution, where it's just like, he's just saying the word revolution. And I counted 25 times. And it's just like a vague sentiment of something. The song was not about anything. This at least has a subject that they are talking about. It's like ode to a Grecian urn, ode to a Finnish sauna, you know? And the commitment to it, I think, is its biggest selling point. I don't know. So I'm probably getting like too deep into this and like should save some of this for when we talk about it more deeply 3 or 4 weeks from now.
As somebody who has been rooting for Finland the last few years and was, to understate it, offended by how Sweden treated Finland last year of just sort of the, haha, if Finland had won, we'd all be watching the Moomins doing,
Moomins in a sauna, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like Moomins in the sauna, and like to have them then reach out to like a Finnish band and the Finnish band go, okay, you want a song about sauna? Apparently they sent like an exaggerated version of this to Anders Rexo so that he could like adapt it for the Swedish audience. But just like the group wanted to write a song showcasing Finnish culture and sort of pulling from their words, the weirdness aura of Karja and Windows 95 and what Finland's been putting down lately. So I'm just considering this a Finnish Trojan horse.
Oh, man. Good for them. Oh, this is so...
Just like, I just adore this so much. I know that Sweden is not used to sending a weird thing. Just like, I'm so glad that they are stepping out of their comfort zone.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's gonna do well. Like one of the critiques that I've been seeing online is just like, oh, well, this is just gonna tank with the jury. It's like, it almost won the Melfest jury. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, like there's musicianship behind this. There's stagecraft behind this. It's just like, no, this is Sweden doing what Sweden does, which is looking at what's working and doing their version of it well. Again, I cannot believe in the year of our Lord 2025, I'm rooting for Sweden. I'm still rooting for Finland too, but just in a way, I'm just rooting for Finland.
Things have gotten real weird. Oh, love it, love it, love it, love it.
While Sweden was happening, San Marino kicked off and just did the thing that San Marino has just always done. At no point during the program did I know what was really happening or where we were in the lineup. They're just a cavalcade of singers. Were they going to perform one song? Were they going to perform like a medley of 3 songs? Who knows? The show opened with an incredibly solemn national anthem, and then we immediately cut to ads. We came back, and the first person on stage to perform was Albano, who was not a contestant. And said that he didn't know how many songs he was going to perform. So I'm just like, oh no, what are we doing?
Probably vamping for time while Sweden was finishing up their performances.
Honestly, if that was the plan, I would have believed you. The San Marinese process is, what if we built the entire Eurovision selection out of the parts where we had to vamp for time? Other fun guests that popped up. Sanit was here to perform Adrenalina and some other song where I was just like, I know that we have these other 20 people who are in the competition, but what about Sanit?
That track was called Dangerous, off of her recent album of the same name. I also think that perhaps this is one that got away, which is going to be the subject of our next Patreon bonus episode. So if you're not on the Patreon yet, get on board.
Yeah, get on board. We are going to discuss Sanit's Dangerous because hell yeah, that slaps. Eventually, we did get through all 20 acts. At the end of the day, third was Teslenko. That was one of the moments during the program where I just looked over from Sweden to what was going on in San Marino and immediately thought of the "I think you should leave" meme where he has too much stuff on him. He had like a very fun coat over a bunch of other layers and just there was a lot of fabric happening. The Rumpled were second. I liked their song. They opened the show.
I was actually kind of worried that they were going to be named the winner. So the last 3.5 hours, could have been 15 minutes. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't worry though, because the most Serene Republic picked the most chaotic option, I think, of the bunch. Well, I mean, not chaotic song-wise, but just sort of in terms of general vibe of... They picked Gabry Ponte's Tutta L'Italia.
This is the thing with San Marino's process, since they can't support televote, and I don't think the EBU is interested in providing any sort of junior Eurovision style voting mechanism. We're basically watching an internal process play out in real time.
The performance of this one was fun, although the entire time I was watching this and then watching the official video for this song, I was like, okay, so Italy's fine with this, but when Tommy Cash does Italy does things this way, it's wrong.
Well, Italy's allowed to say it about itself.
Yeah,
so.
Yes. But no, I just like that, Gabry Ponte is at his little DJ console pressing buttons. There are 2 dancers whose hair is braided together. They have 2 tuxedo masks. The chaotic amount of staging elements happening in San Marino, I'm like, oh, this is Achille Lauro again.
Yeah.
I did that they kept it to 6 people so that we don't also have somebody doing a big fake accordion.
No, they actually had more than 6 people on stage. They had the guy with the little hand drum thing. They had the 2 tuxedos mask. Gabry was in the middle. They had the 2 dancers with the braided hair. But then there were 2 male dancers that joined in during the second chorus, I think. So, okay. Yeah, I hope none of them end up heartbroken that they're not going to be making the trip to Basel.
There's a lot of staging happening on a very small stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll need to figure out something.
It's such a weird choice that he's the name on this one. That's not Gabry Ponte and Friends or whatever. I mean, it's very Italo disco to not name who your singer actually is.
Curious about the evolution of Tutta L'Italia. So.
Also, the producers have the opportunity to do the funniest thing with the first semifinal because Tommy Cash is in the first half and this is in the second half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So either we put the two Italy does things this way entries at polar opposites of the lineup, or we make them kiss.
Yeah.
This is the same song in different fonts. And one of the fonts is Wingdings.
Good luck, San Marino. I feel like I say that every year. And then closing out Saturday was Portugal and the Festival da Canção. A much chiller vibe in general, I would say. There was one entry that was kind of the polar opposite of what Portugal typically does. That would be the song I Want to Destroy You. Things were pretty much on an even keel throughout the show. Once it got into the voting portion, that's like an hour and a half window of like people like backstage partying in the green room. And then there was a point where the hosts were playing the floor with some political satire mixed in there as well. So that was a fun segment. I would love to watch a version of the floor hosted by Philomena. Then it got into the actual scoring portion. It's a mix of jury and televote. The jury is from 7 different regions in Portugal, and there was no consensus with the jury whatsoever. Scores would come in for the first one, and then the next juror would give their scores. And when it got to who they were giving the 12, it was to somebody who was sitting at the bottom of the scoreboard. So a lot of lead changes, no clear runaway winner. The leaders of the jury were Cotovia, Calafrio, and Midu. Then the televote came in, and it was just as chaotic as the jury vote. Cotovia only got 5 from the televote. Calafrio only got 2. Midu actually did okay, got 8 in the televote. Coming in second place was Deslocado. That was mid-table with the jury. And then I Want to Destroy You won the televote. It did not get any love from the jury. So yeah, the overall scores were rather low because Portugal does convert to 12-10-8 flattening. In the end, the top 3 were Deslocado with 17 points, Cotovia with 17 points, and Midu with 16 points. The tie goes to the public vote, so heading to Basel will be NAPA and the song Deslocado. Very little consensus between what the jury liked and what the audience liked.
Watching the televote come in was just very funny because, like, every time I would have a thought of this would be the funniest possible place for these points to go, math-wise, they would go there. Waiting on the 12 points, I'm like, okay, of the 3 things that are potentially going to get this, what if it went to the one that doesn't have any jury points right now?
There was only one entry that had it received the 12 points, it would have been the winner of the contest, but that did not happen. It was a wild voting sequence, but at the same time, like Portugal, I feel like they could really send anything and they would be fine. Or like there were some that would probably perform better than others, but I didn't think that there was like a true dud in the 12 songs that were on offer.
I was finding Josh's staging mesmerizing. I was he was the one who was like appeared to be hanging from a pole. I need to know like what the rig setup is. I assume his upper body strength is decent, but not like 3 minutes also singing decent. The lineup was great. Portugal's going to send what Portugal's going to send.
I was sad that Calafrio did not resonate with the televoters. I don't think that one would have done particularly well at Eurovision, but man, what a presence Jessica Pina has.
Like you had mentioned Jessica Pina a few weeks ago and just watching like, yeah, no, her vibe is great.
I'm hoping to see many of these people come back to future festivals. I think that would be great. But Deslocado, like, what do you think of the track?
So again, so much of Portugal's for me was like, this is nice. I have no clue like what this is doing in the middle of all of this in the rest of the contest. A lot of Europe seems to be going, I don't know this with this year's contest. And like this one feels perhaps most distant from this.
I feel like it is filling in a gap in the contest because it's a 5-piece band of like not quite Joker out levels of band, but it's just like it's I don't know. It's filling the cute boy, like actual band, not like boy band. Very confusing terminology here,
Yes.
but you know what I mean. Like they're playing instruments and stuff. And I like the sound of their song. And I feel like I need to sit with this one a little bit more because it wasn't really on my radar as possibly winning. And that's on me. I think next year with Portugal, it's just like, no, like any one of these songs can and probably will win because of just how wild the scoring can be. I was fully prepared for really any song to take it, especially after the jury vote was just all over the place. It's like, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm looking forward to sitting with this one and just kind of vibing with it. Maro, their 2022 representative, was in Chicago the same night that Festival da Canção happened. So it was just a very full night of Portuguese music for me.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Like with this one, like I think what's the thing that's keeping me from like knowing how I feel on this one is just like, of all of the things yesterday, this one was the least sticky. And that's not a bad thing in its favor. It's just that a lot of very big, brash things happened in the last few days.
If I Want to Destroy You had won, we probably would have a little bit more resonance because that was the one that is like kind of not quite scream metal. Certainly the opposite of what Portugal usually
yes,
trucks with. So
yes, is that Portugal was very Portugal this year, which means that it wasn't the stickiest amidst three other things happening.
But you sit with it for a couple of months, and by the time May rolls around, it's like, oh no, this one's actually pretty nice. They're in the first semifinal, which is going to be just as all over the place.
Which is,
I mean, yeah, they don't have like the jury and televote component in the first semifinal, so like it will be a little less of a wild card, but I'm hopeful for this one. Like I do like it.
yes.
This weekend was the last TV-based weekend of selection season. All of the songs were due on Monday the 10th, so by the time you hear this, everything's been submitted to the EBU. We are recording this early on Sunday morning, so still a couple of things that will be dropping by the time that you hear this episode. Israel's entry, Yuval Raphael's New Day Will Rise, drops late Sunday. Switzerland will be dropping their entry by Zoe May on Monday, March 10th. She is the first female solo artist for Switzerland since 2015.
Looking into the week ahead, Cyprus will be dropping their song on March 11th. We will know what France's song from Luan is on March 15, which will also be when the first Netherlands live performance of Cloud's song will drop. And then somewhere in there, presumably, will be Georgia.
I know Georgia has a lot of political protests that are happening right now, and they also are hosting Junior Eurovision, so I think there's just a lot of plates that are spinning, a lot of priorities that are getting re-ranked. I have heard absolutely nothing about Georgia's plans, intentions, anything. Like I was trying to dig on their Eurovision website on their broadcaster page, and nothing was there.
Yeah, but presumably they will have submitted a song on March 10th, and we will know more about it next time. But for now, that's going to do it for this episode of the EuroWhat. Thanks for listening. The EuroWhat podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me. You can find our full archive of episodes on our website at EuroWhat.com. If you'd like to access our upcoming bonus episodes while helping to support the show, join our Patreon. You can get to Patreon through our website or by going to patreon.com/EuroWhat.
Next time on the EuroWhat, we check in with the final set of songs to be revealed for Eurovision 2025.